Okay, so this video we are going to discuss another part for the complex number operation. Okay, so let's have a look for learning outcome 9.2, and then the first learning outcome we are going to learn it maybe in the next video lah. Alright, so for this video we only want to focus on to find the square root of a complex number. Okay, so how to find the square root of a complex number? Okay, so generally you need to know that the square root of a complex number are also square roots. So the complex number has two square roots. So that means when I want to find out the square root of x plus yi, the final answer will be still the complex number. Okay, alright. So for this video, we only want to focus on how to find out the square root of the complex number. Okay, so you have two roots of because when you're having like square root 4, right? If you're having 4 and then you want to take the square root of it, then you have to consider the plus minus square root 4. So the same thing happened here, right? Okay, so when you have the square root of a complex number, since you know that the final answer is also complex number, therefore when we want to find out the answer, we will need to follow a certain steps up. Right, so we have a look for example 5. For example 5, I will only discuss part C with you, which is the hardest question. Okay, then later after you go through with part C, then you just focus on A and B. You try out on your own. Alright, so we will start from part C. Okay, so every time when they want you to find the square root of a complex number, what you need to do is like they want you to find out the square root 6 plus 8i. Okay, so you take the square root 6 plus 8i and you let it equals to x plus yi. Because you know that the square root of a complex number, it is still a complex number. Okay, alright, so I want to know what is the value for the x and also what is the value for y. Then from there, you will be able to get a square root of a complex number. Alright, so this is the first step. You always start like this. Yeah, so square root 6 plus 8i, you let it equals to x plus yi. Okay, so first step, you try to move the square root over, become square. So you're having 6 plus 8i, which is equals to x plus yi square. Okay, and after that, what you need to do now is you try to expand the bracket on the right hand side. So you are having 6 plus 8i will be equals to, when you expand this, generally what are you having is you should have x squared minus y squared plus 2xyi. Okay, so you expand the bracket, you try to simplify. Okay, then this is what you should get, x squared minus y squared plus 2xyi. Okay, so now I want to get the value for x and y, right? So like what we did before, we try to compare real part with real part, imaginary with imaginary part. So you can compare the 6 with x squared minus y squared. From here, you actually form the first equation, which is x squared minus y squared equals to 6. So this is the first equation. Alright, and then how you get the second equation to get the value for x and y? So the second equation, you compare the imaginary part with the imaginary part. So from here, you can get another equation, which is 2xy equals to 8. And if you further simplify it, then you will have x equals to 4 over y. Alright, so this is my second equation. Okay, so I think from here you should know already, right? If you want to get the value for x and y, very easy. You just need to solve the equation simultaneously. Okay, so I will solve it for you here to let you have a look for the whole process. So I substitute the equation number 2 into 1. Alright, so if I sub equation number 2 into 1, then generally what am I having is 4 over y squared, then minus y squared equals to 6. So you are having 16 over y squared minus y squared equals to 6. Okay, and if I continue from here, then I will have 16 minus y power 4 equals to 6y squared. I multiply everything with y squared. Okay, so to make the denominator disappear. Alright, so if I rephrase it again, y power 4 plus 6y squared minus 16 equals to 0. So generally, this is the equation that I get. Alright, so y power 4 plus 6y squared minus 16. So if you observe this equation, generally it belongs to a quadratic form equation. Okay, so what is the quadratic form equation? You can actually solve it by factorizing, okay, the answer. Okay, so what do we have now is you can try to make the y power 2 as the y power 2 is like your x. Alright, so you separate it and then negative 16 with plus 6. You should have plus 8 and then minus 2. Then equals to 0. So this is how I factorize it. Okay, so if I factorize it, I'm having y squared equals to negative 8 y squared equals to 2. So when I have y, it will be equals to plus minus square root negative 8. And then this one is y equals to plus minus square root 2. Okay, so for some students, you may say that you actually want to simplify this one. So if you want to simplify this one, you get plus minus 2 square root 2i for the y. And also for the y here, I'm having plus minus square root 2. Okay, alright, so when you solve until here, generally this part I will want to ignore it. I want to ignore the set of the answer with complex number. I will only want to consider the real number answer. Okay, so maybe some students will ask, since I already learned complex number, right? Why I want to ignore this set of answer? Okay, so the reason to reject this set of answer, it is not because of it is a complex number. It is actually because of if you substitute this set of answer into the equation later, you'll get back the repeated answer. Later, I will show it to you. Okay, so in short, right, when you face this kind of question, you have the your one of set of answer is complex number one, right? Then you want to substitute to find the x, right? You can straight away ignore this complex number part because you will get back the repeated set of answer. I will show it to you later, but I will proceed to this real number first. Okay, since your y equals to plus minus square root 2, right? So I can actually try to find the x. So what is the x? Okay, so I will write like this. When the y is equals to positive square root 2. So what is your x here? So your x will be 4 divided by square root 2. You can try to simplify it or rationalize it. Then you have 2 square root 2. Okay, so I already skipped the step, but for me, I will need to rationalize it first. Okay, and then after that, when your y equals to negative square root 2, so what will happen to your x? So your x is equals to 4 divided by negative square root 2, and therefore you have negative 2 square root 2. Okay, so just in case if you don't know how I get the x equals to 4 over square root 2, you get it from here. You substitute it back into this equation to get the x. Okay, so once you get the x and y already, from here, you can write out your answer for the complex number, for the square root of the complex number. So you can write it out like this. So 6 plus 8i square root, the two answer that you get is 2 square root 2 plus square root 2i. Another one is negative 2 square root 2 minus square root 2i. So you have two answers for the square root of 6 plus 8i. Alright, so this is your answer. Then some students, they might want to write it like this, or plus minus bracket 2 square root 2 plus square root 2i. Also can. You can write it in a plus and minus sign like this. Also no problem. Okay, so this is a complete answer for finding out the square root of 6 plus 8i. Okay or not? Alright, so in exam, this is what you need to do lah. Alright, so let us come back to the first set of the answer. So just now I said we ignore this part, right? Okay, so we ignore this part. It is not because of we ignore it because of it is a complex number lah. So it is the reason is because of when you use this set of answer to continue to find the x, you will find back the same set of answer here. So since you are going to find back the same set of answer, why we need to repeat the steps again? So we will just ignore it, right? But if you want to have a look, then I can try to prove it and show you. Okay, so if let's say I take this as an answer lah, so let's say y equals to positive 2 square root 2i. Okay, so what is your x? Your x will be 4 divided by 2 square root 2i, right? Then from here, you can cancel off the 2. You have the 2 on top, and then you want to rationalize. Okay, so rationalize means that you multiply it with square root 2i. On top, you also multiply it with square root 2i. Okay, so if you look at this part here, generally what are you going to have it is square root 2 multiply with square root 2, you get a 2 lah. So at the bottom part, you have negative 2. So negative 2 on top, you have 2 square root 2i. So in short, you are having negative square root 2i only for your x. Okay, so if your y is this one, your x is negative square root 2i, then that means when your y is equals to negative 2 square root 2i, your x should have positive square root 2i. Okay, so I skip the step. Alright, I assume that the pattern is like this. So if let's say your y is 2 square root 2i, then your final answer for the x will be this. Then if your y is negative, then your answer for the x is positive. Okay, so now we want to substitute the answer, okay, into x plus yi, because to get the final answer, you need to get your x and y into the x plus yi, right? So your root number 1, okay, equals to x plus yi. So your x is negative square root 2i plus yi. So this is your y. Your y is 2 square root 2i multiplied with I. This is x plus yi. So I'm substituting the first set of answer that I get just now into the equation here. And then to get the final answer for root 1, you need to simplify it, right? So negative square root 2i. So for this part, if you try to simplify it, you are having negative 2 square root 2. So if you rewrite again, then you're having negative 2 square root 2 minus square root 2i. So this is one of the answer for the square root of 6 plus 8i. And if you compare, it is actually exactly the same as what we get just now. So since if you substitute this value and the steps looks more complicated and longer, but final answer that you get, it is still the same answer that you already get just now. So what for you need to repeat it again, right? Therefore, you will see that usually for this set of answer, we will straight away ignore it. All right. If you don't believe, you can continue with root number 2. Okay, so for root number 2, you need to substitute the second set of answer. You substitute this one. Okay, so your x is square root 2i, okay, then plus yi. So y is negative 2 square root 2i multiplied with I. So eventually you are having 2 square root 2 plus square root 2i. So again, it is the first set of answer here. Alright, so that's why this blue color part, we always ignore. So I show it here to you to clarify that if you continue or if you didn't ignore the answer set with the complex number, after you substitute everything, the final answer is still the repeated answer. Alright, so you can straight away ignore it for this part. Okay, alright, so that is why we actually ignore the one set of answer here. Okay, not because of it is a complex number, but it is because of after you substitute it, your final answer is still the repeated set of answer. So that's why we ignore it. Okay, all right, so this is how we find out the square root of a complex number. Okay, I hope that you have the idea how to do it. It is not hard actually, just that the step is a bit longer only. Okay, so I want you to have a try for the part A and also part B on your own. I will only give you the answer. All right, so for the final answer here, part A, okay, the root that you get, the answer for the square root that you get should be 2 plus 2i and also negative 2 minus 2i. And then for part B, the answer should be negative 2 plus I, then 2 minus I. Alright, so this should be the answer that you get for the square root of the complex number in part A and part B. Alright, so I think you need to spend some time to try it out. The process is not hard actually, just that it is a bit longer only.